What's going on, guys? This is Jason from G Style Magazine. We are back. We've been doing EVs for the first half of this year, and we're continuing on with this latest EV, or this week in the driveway. This is the 2022 Hyundai IONIQ 5, fully electric, pretty futuristic looking, but a few design choices that maybe I wouldn't have made. So as we look into this, let's just see what this car does, and let's see how it compares to my Tesla. So we'll do a little walk around of the car, talk about the exterior, the interior, and then I'll talk about how I feel about driving it. Let's do it. So before we get into the inside of the IONIQ 5, let's talk a little bit about how it looks at first glance. So I always love styling and aesthetics first. So when you first walk up to this car, it looks very futuristic. It has a cool design. It isn't ugly. Sometimes EVs can be ugly, but this one actually looks pretty good. But let's talk about some of the features. So just off the first glance, you can notice how right now we got one camera in the front. The car actually has 4 cameras that I've spotted so far. If there's more, I'll add that later. But we got one in the front. We have 2 right under the side view mirrors, and then there's one in the rear. What's cool about this car is, now this is as configured the limited version. So there's 3 trims: SE, SEL, and limited. This is limited, and the wheels are a little bit different from the base trim, but it's a love or hate thing. I haven't yet to decide how I feel about it, but it doesn't look bad, I'll say that. Now, as you approach the car, all of the doors are actually really seamless. Let me actually just close it up real quick so you can kind of see. So I'm just gonna use the key fob here. All of the doors is flush with the door. When you approach, or if you use the key fob, you can unlock it, pops it up, you pull it to open it up. Going along the side, the framing is real nice. Like I said, the design choices were really cool. It is a car that looks very futuristic, but still in a modern environment. Because we're in 2022, so therefore it can't look too futuristic, and it can't look too modern and too plain like everything else. So this is right in the middle sweet spot of where you want to see an EV in 2022. Now, as we walk along the side and get to the rear, I definitely have to talk about the tail lights on this. This is very unique and something I like. So if you notice here, this has a LED beam across the back, and that's very unique and different. Definitely give it points for that one. And I think this will differentiate it on the road compared to other EVs. Now, going further about the trunk, and I'll see if I can get it to work, it also has a touchless trunk lift. You can wipe your foot around it. No, of course it doesn't work when I'm recording, but if that doesn't work, you can, like any traditional car, you can press the button and then that comes up. I forget the name of the thing. So it has a hatchback-like trunk, so hood, trunk door comes all the way up, hatchback-like storage. Of course, you can fold down the seats for exterior storage. But one thing that I have to give a negative for is, besides the Tesla, which has that great storage and that great understorage, most other EVs I saw so far just do not have that. So if I come over here and I flip this up, this really does not have good storage. It has a hump in it that blocks space, and you have 2 small nooks. But what am I really gonna do with that? Tesla sedan has that. Tesla SUV has that. Why other EVs don't? I don't know. It's a questionable design choice. You let me know. So when we get to the right side of the car, and each EV could be a little bit different. Some EVs have the, not gas, but the charging port in the front, some left, some right, some back, some front. This one is on the back right side. You can access it by touching the button, or from your key fob, you'll have to unlock the car first, and then you kind of press and hold this button, and that will unlock the charging port. You have your regular for if you're doing your level 1, level 2 charging at home, and of course you can pull this down here if you're doing DC fast charging at a level 3 charger publicly. All right, so to round out the first exterior walk around the car, let's start back where we started, the front. Again, we have the cameras on the front, the 2 sides, the one in the rear, but let's talk about the front, or lack of one. So when I open up the trunk, or the front I should say, let me just get that going. This is not what I would call a front. So it does have some storage cabinet, some storage space, but when you open it, you notice that Storage is on the minimum. As far as depth, I can get my hand just about that far. Not much storage here. You got enough for some paperwork, maybe some small items, but nothing too much, which is a shame because you could have had way more space available, like my Tesla that has some space for storage. I also find it weird that I have to open the trunk, then open another compartment inside to get to the storage versus it just being there. So another weird design choice, but you know, every EV will be different. So if you need a little bit of storage, you have some here. All right, so once we get to the interior of the Hyundai IONIQ 5, it gets interesting. Definitely still follows that futuristic theme, but still kind of set in 2020. The first thing I will note, though, especially coming from my Tesla, is Tesla is very minimalistic. You know, you have your dash control in the middle, and that's it. Getting into this after I've been driving a Tesla since what, September now, this is a lot of buttons to kind of get adjusted to. You know, it has touchscreen, it has buttons, it has different stalks for different things. It has this little funky thing on the side called drive mode. It's going to definitely take you a few minutes to kind of get yourself adjusted, especially if maybe you come from a Tesla. If you're coming from a gas car, it won't be as much of a learning curve, but how they decide to do things will take some time to get used to. Kind of starting from the front on. Now you have your traditional steering wheel. You got your buttons on side for cruise control, you know, volume, phone. You have your windshield wipers, your lights, your high beams. Now, when it comes to changing the gears, though, you know, there is no dial, there is no pull lever. Obviously, like a truck, there is no stalk on the side you pull, but actually, you have this non-movable stalk right here, and you just kind of twist it to change your gears. So you twist it up or forward for drive, you twist it back for reverse, and then you have a button here you press in for park. So that right there is a little different. Do I like it? I don't know. Took me a while to learn what this does or figure it out, and it definitely took one of the garage attendants that I had drove this car to and parked it one day some time to figure it out. Now I can only assume that what it was, but when I got out the car and gave it to him, the car sat there for a while. My thought is he was trying to figure out how to make the car move. So, you know, your learning curve will vary. Now, kind of still following the dashboard, and I could be wrong, but we have two 12.3 touch screens. Well, actually, one's a touch screen, one's just a display, heads-up display that shows everything. And in the limited trim, as this one is configured, there's actually even a kind of AR-like heads-up display that's projecting out on the windshield. So while you can't see unless you're in the driver's seat, there's a little box down here that's actually pumping information out. So I can kind of see my miles per hour, direction, and other critical information, so I can keep my eyes on the road as I'm driving. Now on the center console here, now this is where your main touchscreen is. You have your buttons for map, navigation, climate, media, radio, and then in your heads-up display in front of you, you have all your critical information. Now, depending on the trim level that you have, there is this thing, because you know we have those two cameras on the side rear view mirrors. You know, when you signal a turn left or right, a little small round camera window comes up, and it covers your blind spot, so you can kind of see if a car's in your lane as you're switching. I think that's only on the limited trim. I'll correct if I'm mistaken, but it may be on the SLE or limited trim. The only complaint I have there is, you know, I'm a left-handed driver, so my left hand's on the wheel. So if I'm putting on my left turn signal, that window kind of comes up, but I can't really see it unless I duck my head under, because, you know, my hand kind of covers the range. So I kind of wish that was somewhere else, maybe not there, maybe even put it on the one that's far to the right and not obstructed with any views. So we talked about the front dashboard and a lot of the stalk and stuff on the steering wheel, but let's talk about the interior space. So I'm in the back seat right now. Now I'm not tall by any means. I'm 5'7", but you know, I've got tons of room. Like most EVs, you know, since that gear transmission on the bottom is not needed, you got the full flat, you know, back row. You know, there's no hump in the middle. Same thing with the front. There's, you know, clear space throughout the front, so you got plenty of leg room, plenty of space to put additional for a road trip, your snacks and all that. You could probably get a cooler back here, or maybe even the front. When you get to the back seat though, things I want to kind of call out, and you may be able to see it, you know, we're daytime right now, but on the limited version, there is a kind of highlighted accents around the speakers, and right here in the little nook of the seat you can see kind of like a little ambiance color here. This, I believe you can change the colors to different things. It adds a nice touch at night. Moving beyond the accents, you know, the design of the doors is very nice. I like the design that they have. That is also in the seat patterns. From the back here, you actually notice too this nice little fabric feel on the back of the seat, something I don't see on many cars. It's a nice touch. Another thing I don't see, probably not in cars, I've seen it maybe on minivans maybe, but you have these back vents, so you can kind of control, the back passengers can control their flow of air as well. Usually when I see the placement of this is like right here in the middle, and you only have kind of up and down play, but this is more directed at the person, so you know, I can really feel the air coming at me, which is useful. Going for a few more interior features, so it does have USB-A plugs. When last time I checked, I counted 1 in the direct center, 2 in the center console, and 2 back here, for a total of 5. Now there is no USB-C, and I kind of wish it did, because, you know, as a car that's in 2022, has futuristic feels, why not put USB-C? That's becoming the standard now, so I would have hoped that would have been in here, but it does have that backwards compatibility. So if you have a USB-A to USB-C plug cable, you can plug up your phone, other peripherals. If you want to just do USB-C to USB-C, you're not going to be able to do that here without like some kind of middle ground adapter. Now I'm in the back seat because one of the things I think is a cool feature about this car is its sunroof. Now as a driver, I always feel sunroofs sound good on paper, but how often does the driver really get to just look up at the sun or the sky while they're driving? You can't really do that, but your passengers can. And the best place for a sunroof is the backseat passenger. So most sunroofs will open from the front and shift all the way to the back. The IONIQ 5 does something a little different. I like to call it theatrical, because it kind of has that theatrical curtain that opens from the middle and kind of goes to the front and back. So I'm gonna kick that off real quick. I'm just gonna lean forward and open that up, and it's a full panoramic sunroof that just kind of opens from the middle. Now if you're in the back seat, this is a great view on a road trip. I mean, it looks amazing, but I mentioned earlier that as a driver, you don't really get to appreciate that view in most cars. Now the Hyundai IONIQ 5 though, they got you covered. So I'm gonna pause real quick. I'm gonna get in the front. I'm gonna show you what I mean and why this car has you covered if you want to look at the views up top. This is nice though. You could really be like in a campsite somewhere, just like look out. Just be chilling. This is relaxing. Like you could see on a break somewhere. Like, you know, I'm going to the car, look at the sky, just relax. All right, so just kind of to wrap up the Hyundai IONIQ 5, let's talk a little bit about experience. You know, we talk about the exterior, we talk about the interior features. You know, but what is it like using the car and driving with it? So let's kind of just start, and we'll just touch on a few spots. The first one I want to say is the car does have wireless charging, which is a plus, but the way they put it was a little awkward. So you see we have here, there's an armrest. I really wish this armrest went all the way back, like complete vertical. So it comes at a weird angle, and then your elbow is kind of a weird spot. Now the wireless charger is down below, so to get your phone, you're doing this weird dance to kind of angle your hand to get it at the spot where it's at. I really wish this could have been a little bit different, because, you know, putting it in and out, it's just awkward with this. This could have been better if maybe the armrest went all the way up, but, you know, it's not a deal breaker, but, you know, kind of a weird design choice. Now, speaking on wireless charger, and let's segue to the fact that the car does have Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. Incoming rant. We're in 2022. This is a futuristic type car, very modern, very futuristic, very sleek. I have a wireless charger down here. Hyundai, can you explain to me why, to use Apple CarPlay or Android Auto, I still need a cable to plug into the phone? So that means I have a choice. from where the position of the wireless charger is and where the nearest USB-A port is. Either I cannot use the wireless charger and plug my phone up into this USB port, which is in the center console area, or not use Android Auto, Apple CarPlay, and plug up here. Yes, I do have wireless chargers here, wireless. I have the wired ports here, but again, really, in 2022, do I really need a cable to do that? Why don't we have wireless Android Auto and Apple CarPlay? Weird design choice, and one I have a pet peeve with, not just with Hyundai, but with any car that comes out in 2022, and I need a wired plug for that. So maybe let's work on that. And this is your top line limited trim. I can see this was the base SE one, but this is your premium top of the line one you can get. That's something that should just been standard. All right, now let's talk a little bit about driving the car. Now, especially when I compare it to my Tesla, a few things that I just don't trust with this. So this does have the ability to, you know, go not autopilot, but you can put it on cruise control. You can have it keep your car in the lane, gap control and all that. But what I've noticed in just the first day or two of driving this is I don't trust this beyond a straight, unending path. When you throw some curves into the mix, this car seems to have recurrently not been able to keep myself in that lane. And it hasn't even been deep curves. It might be a slight curve to the left or the right. And I've noticed that it'll, you know, I was by myself, it was safety first, I was the only one there. I let it do what it's gonna do, and I watched it literally swerve out of this lane into the next one. No indicating lights, no warnings, it just kind of went there and it just lost the ability to keep it in lane. Then in the new lane, it regained it. But this is at the point where I wouldn't recommend doing this. Obviously, when you're doing these features, they're not meant to take over driving for you, they're an assistant, so you should be eyes on the road, still paying attention. But in this one, really pay attention, because before you know it, you might be in another lane. Now in my Tesla, I'm confident. Yes, there's phantom ghost braking, but for the most part, whatever lane I'm in, even if it's a sharp curve, my Tesla will keep me in that lane. Can this do it? No. Should you not buy the car because of that? No. But just something you should be aware of. So that's one thing I've noticed, you know, as far as features. When it comes to other experiences, I mentioned earlier, this had a little button for drive mode. It shifts between eco, normal, and sport. Sport is a whole different car, very more torquey, very more sporty. It feels really fun. And even though this is a compact SUV, it really shows itself in sport mode. So definitely a different animal there. For the most part, I drove it in normal to kind of, you know, work with fuel efficiency. And the visualizations on your heads-up display here change depending on what mode you're in. So if I was to press it, you know, real quick, you'll see the whole dashboard kind of changes a little bit based upon the mode you're in. So with sport, what I did notice is that this is an all-wheel drive car, but in normal, it's usually using only the rear motor to, you know, power the car. It'll throw on the front motor for extra power in certain scenarios, but it's usually just using the back. In sport mode, all motors are front and rear are working in unison to really add that extra torque and pull that you'll notice when you're in the car. So depending on how you like to drive, you know, each mode will work for you. Obviously, eco will give you the most fuel economy, but you know, it's all up to a preference. Now, to wrap it up and close this out, does this compare to my Tesla? Like if I had to choose which one would I get, this is not gonna win. I'm still picking my Tesla Model 3. Should you buy the Tesla Model 3 over this because I said so? No. I actually know a few people. My neighbor actually just got one. He pulled into his driveway the same night this got dropped off for me to review. And when I was charging it at an Electrify America charger, I met another person who just got one this past Saturday. Well, this past Saturday at the time of recording, he got one for him and his wife. And we saw another person pull in trying to charge their car. So this seems to be a popular car to pick up. If you're coming from a gas car, there's a nice little learning curve into the world of EV with some stuff that you're still familiar with. If you're coming from a Tesla, you're gonna have to get adjusted. Again, this is not gonna beat my Tesla, but this is probably the first EV car that I reviewed this year that actually was like, I can see myself buying that. So take that however you wish. What do you think about the Honda IONIQ 5? Let us know in the comments. Definitely make sure you subscribe, hit the little bell icon so that way you know when new videos come up. But until then, I'm Jason Anderson. This is G Style Magazine. Catch you guys later.